In this Battletech vlog, we're going to explore, we're going to approach a sidebar with artillery. We've been talking about this idea in Battletech where the focus, the core, of course, are mechs. But then, based on the rules, based on your miniature collection, you can add in combined arms, infantry, air support, tanks, vehicles. You do have fortifications and terrain that impacts the game. But then we get into artillery and the different artillery pieces. We've been looking at some of the smaller ones. I pushed up the Thumper, and, well, field guns technically aren't artillery, but they play a similar, more direct role as opposed to an indirect role based on the rules in the phase. That is up in the Battletech archive. But we're going to jump in with the Long Tom artillery piece. Now, your first exposure to this, or as a primary weapon, just to give you an idea of scope and size, these are usually incorporated on artillery pieces for drop ships. We see it on the Fortress. So what that means is this is a massive, massive weapon. This is like some World War I updated massive, massive cannon. The potential for damage, the potential for range. It tends to only be on the very heaviest of pieces based on the slots that it occupies in the tonnage. I'm willing to bet, I'm sure you can do it. I haven't done it, but now I'm kind of curious. I guess you could could you possibly mount this in a mech? Exploring that perspective. So the mobile piece, there's a couple of interesting miniatures out there for it. Essentially, it's looks like a tracked train with this massive, massive cannon. And if you look at the scale of it up to a mech, you realize this is essentially close, not exact, but close, Z-scale. This is a big piece. When you put this up against a mech, it literally is like an entire carriage. It's got the puller, it's got the tractor, it's got the main body, it's got the cannon, it's towing ammo and support. This on the battlefield is a very, very impressive and big, big piece. If you have the chance to see it, the actual miniature. I can't say the official miniature anymore, but the classic miniature next to an assault mech, it's big, it's got bite. And again, there's a lot of interesting third-party print and 3D print pulling in this piece. So you have an artillery piece that is capable of moving. It makes sense in the narrative, but in the game itself, if we're looking at hex maps versus non-hex maps, it's more of a display piece. When I've played it, it's more of a mission display piece, and it's not something that you're going to like roll around and shoot with. Now, I'm not saying don't go out and use the miniature. I'm not saying don't purchase this, but we're kind of approaching this vlog from the narrative, because tactically you can pay the battle value for this piece, and it's only about 500 battle value. You're paying significant, like 1/8 or 1/10 of the battle value is the actual ammo for this. That's how potent and how expensive it is in terms of damage. But essentially, tactically, you can purchase this piece with your battle value or your C-bills and play it off table. I mean, maximum range is 30 hex maps. Think about that, 30 maps. We calculated it out at a Battletech game once, playing on the table, 30 hex maps, measuring it out, where we were playing it like literally almost went to the front door of the store. So you're hanging out there with your Long Tom, someone's spotting, and you're firing that in. You're like firing that over the Warhammer 40K tables, the X-Wing miniature tables, the D&D players, the people kind of hanging out, reading comic books and painting, and then landing on that table. So incorporating the rules, a lot of different ways to do it. In terms of damage, artillery, conventional, this has the largest amount, a direct hit, 25 points. Then, of course, as it radiates out, as it scatters with the artillery rules, 25, 15, 5. If you nail directly on with that radius, that's some serious firepower. That is some serious damage. But where it follows, of course, is with the artillery rules. So it happens at a different phase. You have to pick a point And of course, the target, if it's moving or as it moves, that will possibly affect it. We see this essentially with other conventional artillery that we're going to play. It works great in city fight, city tech, attacker versus defender. It's great for if it's an attacker versus defender scenario, like if you're playing in a city. And this is kind of moving into artillery, but sometimes you want the biggest guns, and the long tom is the biggest. This idea of if I'm the attacker with my artillery, as I push and as I move you forward, you're going to start to fall back within that city. Like, let's say I have to capture the starport, but I can't damage the starport. I know eventually you're going to cluster up in that starport. I'm not going to drop artillery on that, but I can pick certain points, maybe with cover or that have good advantage for your mechs and vehicles. So as I'm driving through the city, I'm potentially exposed, but you might have level 1 cover, you might have partial concealment. I know where you're going. I know that second line that you're going to pull back. That's where I'm dropping that artillery. And that kind of really increases the rules, the efficiency. You also have specialized ammo for artillery. And the biggest thing with specialized ammo for artillery is the range to effectively deliver it. Tactica, I mean, I've played with it once or twice, but usually when I'm taking artillery, it's going for the big guns. I'm looking to deal that damage. I'm looking to destroy and just pulverize certain points, remove certain terrain on the map, or try to catch certain mechs and literally obliterate them. So an interesting piece. Yes, I can deploy it on the map. It's vulnerable there. Am I going to be driving around with it? Not really. I only have one. Miniature. Tempted to be like 2 or 3 long toms, but I would never play that. I've got about 7 thumpers, though, that I could put down. But the perspective of the miniature piece, this is one that you can buy and play off table or buy and play by proxy or go with the actual miniature. When I do play it, even though it's vulnerable, I go with the actual miniature. Because again, looking at the scale of this is big compared to a mech. Imagine seeing this type of weapon in real life. I mean, there's a whole crew to utilize it and man it. That makes it kind of neat to play. That makes it kind of fun from the narrative and something else to explore and add to your Battletech game and collection.